Welcome back to the Ultimate Health Shift. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Henry, and this is a transformational event where we are going to be busting barriers, transforming thoughts, all while learning how to nourish your body and your soul. You guys are in for a treat today with Danielle Mecurio. She is a professional speaker, spiritual teacher, and a comedic host. Danielle, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me, Katie. It's just so fun.
I'm so excited for you. You're just an amazing human being. And like I said, everyone really is in for a treat. And Danielle, so we've met from doing the Spirit Junkie Masterclass through Gabby Bernstein. And that was a huge shift for me. And I know it was for you, but I would love for you to share with everyone listening how you ended up doing the work you're doing, because I know it's a lot different than what you were doing a few years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I didn't grow up in like a pack of traveling gypsies or anything like that. As cool as my younger self probably would have liked that at the time. I had a very normal, all-American upbringing. I was raised Catholic, and, I kind of was just put into that box, right? I feel like so many of us in our lives growing up were just kind of put into the box because that's how you play it safe, and that's what you're supposed to do, and that's why you're here. And I always struggled with that. I wouldn't have deemed myself as like a rule breaker, but I definitely was a person that was outside the box. And I definitely was someone that was always kind of like questioning things and just wanted to know why. Why do we have to do it that way? Or why do we have to do it like everybody else? And I don't understand. And I would literally like secretly go like hide in the library and go to like the new age metaphysical section and like read up on these spiritual concepts and tools. And I love them. But because I was so also just attached to making sure that I was pleasing other people and I didn't want people to judge me, it was very much kind of growing up in the space of, okay, how can I just play it cool and just do what everyone expects of me? And I guess that will be it. And then as I entered into college, I just realized like this isn't working. Like I was doing a major elementary special ed, which, I mean, technically I am a teacher and it's a beautiful craft. So all my teachers out there like that are doing it, you rock. But I knew it wasn't for me. But then that became so confusing in and of itself, because it's like, great, everyone has like their majors and their things picked out. And then here I am, I don't know what the frick I'm doing. Like I have no clue. And so it was a very kind of depressing time, honestly, college was for me, because I felt like it was supposed to be the gateway into becoming an adult and having all these opportunities. And I felt just lost and like stuck through all of it. So I did the only thing that I could think of, which was keep playing the game. And so I wound up, for a little bit, I was kind of waiting tables and whatnot. And then I fell into a job in corporate. I was administrative assistant at a law firm, and I was, doing well at it. But like, again, I just was like, is this it? Is this all there is? Like me just go to this job every day and like please other people? Like, what's the point? And I got into that space again of like questioning things, but I felt so trapped by not knowing another way that I would just find ways to black out. Addictive personality, which I freaking adore now about myself. Well, I guess I adored it then too. But finding ways to escape, finding ways to black out, and I really wasn't taking care of myself. But again, I just didn't see the point. I was like, well, what's the point? Because all I'm doing is just kind of living for other people anyway. So what does it matter? And it didn't really get resolved until I got to a place in my life about 7 years ago that I was really messing things up, and I was being really reckless, and I was really ruining any authentic friendships or relationships I did have. And so there was a turning point where I was just really reckless in some very scandalous, great for reality TV kind of ways. And that shifted me out of my kind of funk a little bit and got me to a place where I realized I needed to start to take care of myself. I wasn't really sure what the outcome would be or what things were like on the other side, but I knew that I had to kind of stop this behavior. And so I found therapy. Through there, I found meditation, and I really started to get into this path where I could, it wasn't like I could fall in love with myself, right? So many people are like, self-love, fall in love with yourself. Like, it's great. I was like, well, in love with myself. Like, I don't even like myself. Like, how am I going to make that jump, right? But in time, I started to slowly get into the idea of liking myself and being nice and stopping the judgments from within. And then that grew into oh, you're kind of hot. Like you're kind of feeling yourself here. And that eventually led to this beautiful progression of self-love, becoming my own best friend. And it was that became the catalyst then for me wanting to help other people and wanting to inspire them, which led me to life coaching and bringing in my favorite spiritual tools that I used or secretly loved growing up into my coaching practice, which has just been so amazing, a lot of fun.
Danielle, first off, I think what you shared is so many people are doing that. And a lot of you who are listening right now are probably like nodding your head being like, oh my God, that's exactly what I did. But I think you said it so beautifully there at the end is you couldn't love yourself. You were like, I don't even understand that. But you started with, okay, hey, like maybe I'm not so bad. And I think that's a really important message for everyone who's listening is just start there and then see what can happen from that piece. And you just said that so beautifully. And it's really true. It's you have to take a little step forward before you can jump into, oh, I love myself, I'm amazing, blah, blah, blah. Like if you can't even believe that, how is that going to happen?
Right. Yeah. So it's so important to be realistic and meet yourself where you're at in order to really make growth. We try to go to these extremes. It's too far-fetched and we're not going to make the real progress that we need to.
So, Danielle, you said that your spiritual practice has always been a part of you. You know, you were kind of dabbling in it as you were younger and you pushed it aside. And obviously now it's a huge part of you, but it's always been a part of who you are. So for people that are like, that terrifies me. How do you start? Because it can kind of be this freaky world or foreign language or, oh, that's too woo, I'm not going to do it. So where do you suggest people begin?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It seems like it's a very loaded concept and it can seem very out there. It can seem very woo-woo. It can seem like it goes against maybe some of your religious upbringing or background. For me, like I mentioned, I grew up Catholic and then I kind of went from Catholic to like bitter, if you will. And then
Same.
from that, I did. And because again, I was just like, for the same similar reasons that I resisted a lot of things in my life. But then once I kind of started to step into the spiritual path, I realized that my religious upbringing, I could take the pieces that I want from it and use my spiritual background to start to blend them together. So I say, here's the thing. This is what spirituality means. You know, the word inspire. Inspire means to be in spirit. So I say start with the things that inspire you. And maybe that means starting with your own faith, your own religion. For me, I always connected with Mother Mary. And so, I started to, when I was kind of starting to get into the place of wanting to take care of myself more, I didn't really know how to connect with spirit per se, but I knew I was always connected to Mother Mary. So I started just kind of opening up and saying prayers and speaking to her a little bit. But I really believe that you just have to find what speaks to you the most. So again, looking at spirit, knowing that spirit just means inspiration. What inspires you? Why don't you, Google spirituality and see what comes up? Go to the bookstore. Bookstores are still around, yes. And, go to the self-help section and just allow yourself to just browse through the titles and see something that speaks to you and, take the book and just kind of start to look through the pages and see if something inspires you. If it does, beautiful, take that and read it. But I think the biggest thing is again, meeting yourself where you're at is really important when it comes to a spiritual path. And if you're interested in the idea of opening up to it, allow the inspiration to come to you. Allow it to start to find you. It sounds a little bit out there, like what do you mean let it find me? But be open and be curious, and you may be surprised with what comes back at you. Spirituality essentially is using a power or an energy or a force that feels greater than you to guide you back to yourself. So all spirituality really is a sense of homecoming into who you are, a sense of discovering who your higher self is, or, your higher self can also be known as your soul, right? And so spirituality essentially is not this worshiping, this woo-woo out there godly presence per se. While that can be part of it, what it ultimately is about is how can you use something greater than you to bring yourself back to the greatness that has been you this whole time and discover a new elevated sense of yourself? So that's how I look at it.
I think that's a perfect way to look at it. And one of the things that you mentioned was having this curiosity, but also like not judging it. And like you said, browsing through the bookshelves, what sounds good to me? And then pull something, read it, and not judge why you picked that one or overanalyze it. And I think I know from my personal experience, that was something that I had done a lot. And I was like, well, why am I being drawn to this or whatever? And then as soon as I kind of let that go and had a little bit of faith and trust and said, I wonder what this will be, then that's when you start to find a deeper connection. And you're right, it is really coming back to you and coming home to you and who you are on a deeper level. And that is like how you connect with your soul. And so I hope that you guys are hearing what Danielle is saying is that there are pieces that are maybe things you can't understand and whatever, and that is part of having faith, but it really is finding that deeper connection to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that is something that anyone who has some kind of spiritual practice does, but they do it in a different way. And so what works for you might not work for me. And I know something that you know a lot about, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, is how do people start to identify, what works for them? I know it's this part of curiosity, but how do you find that and then start to bring it into your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, I always, yes, so find the thing that inspires you and then get curious about it. And then notice if you keep coming back for more. There's a reason why you do. So if you're in this space where you got a book or there's a concept or there's a meditation that you learned and you find yourself wanting to keep doing it, or you're finding that you're getting results that feel really good. You can't really explain it, but just for some reason you feel a little bit better. You want to keep doing those things. And what I love about spirituality is there's nothing that can ever be defined, right? With religion, we're defining things. I'm Christian, I'm Jewish, I'm Buddhist. You can say I'm spiritual, but you can't really define it. And I think that's why we get in our heads with those sometimes, because we want to define it. We want to have a label around it. And my suggestion is to lose the labels, right? Lose the attachment to what does this mean for me, or how do I label myself, or how do I explain my process to other people? That's not for you to do. The beautiful thing that I love about our spiritual path is it's personal to you, and everyone's going to have a different approach to it. That's why I want you to be open to the ways that work best for you, and then also be open to if it stops working. There are things that I've uncovered on my path that were really amazing, so helpful for me in the beginning, and not that they're not helpful anymore, but it got to a place where I evolved past, or it became an ingrained part of my being. So I became curious about what the next thing is. Again, it's being spiritually curious and not judging yourself if you're moving on to the next thing. In our culture, sometimes we get stuck into, oh, well, I thought you were into this, and now you're into this, and now you're doing this, now you're doing that. And it's like, what's going on here? And it's like, it's okay. It's just part of the excitement and the build and the growth. And it means that you're expanding. And every time that you kind of take in one chapter or concept or tool and you really embody it and identify with it, then perhaps it's time to move into the next one. It doesn't mean you're abandoning old concepts. It just means you're growing into new ones. So realize that when you're on this path and you're open to spirituality, it never stops. You're always going to be pursuing more. You're always going to be getting into other things. So have fun with that. Have fun that it's not definite and it's not something that is finite,
I think that's so true. And if you look at it in a sense of, oh my gosh, what's going to come up next? Like, it's kind of exciting, and you're just growing and evolving and really connecting. Again, like you said before, you're just connecting deeper to yourself. So why not get excited about that? Like, what a great journey to be on of a deeper understanding of yourself. And like you said, that really is what having a spiritual practice is. And it's a practice. So it's going to change, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to change, grow, redefine, all of it.
So when it comes to integrating it into your everyday life, and like you said, it's going to change and evolve, but what would you say are a few things that can be helpful to, once you're curious and you find what inspires you and you're on the path, how do you kind of stay on the path? knowing that you're going to veer off anyways, right?
Yes, exactly. Knowing that that's part of the process too, and it's part of being human, right? I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So as much as we can take on the spiritual path, our human side is still going to play into all of this, and we need to honor that and realize it's a balance. It's a dance. So I say find the first practice that speaks for you. A lot of people when they're first starting out and maybe meditating for a few minutes or doing a particular meditation or yoga practice. It could be saying a certain affirmation every day. Some people like to do a 40-day practice. There's a lot of individuals that will pick up a 40-day or a 60-day or a 90-day thing. And so if you're the type of person that needs that routine and you're the one that's like, I need to hold, in order to hold myself accountable to doing this new concept that I picked up or this new tool, I need to make sure that I'm doing it once a day for these 40 days so that I can really experience it and benefit it, right? To kind of change and shift this habit. Some people though, that's not their jam. For me, I'm not that type of person. If you say, Danielle, you have to do this for 40 days, again, I get into that kind of defiant role. And I'm like, wait a minute, you can't tell me what to do. I don't want to do this for 40 days and I'm going to resist, right? So for me, what I had to do so that I'm not completely resisting, I had to get clear on what does it mean to have a spiritual practice every day, even if I'm not putting any kind of rules on it. So for some of you that can do like the 40-day, the 30-day, the 90-day, beautiful. Do that, rock it out, and then at the end of those however many days, pick the new one. If you're like me and the routine, the consistency turns you off, then you have to get clear on what are your expectations. So I had to say, okay, no matter what, I want to make sure that I am doing something that calls upon my connection to something greater. So every day I need to make sure that I'm doing something that makes a connection. And so that could be waking up in the morning and saying what I'm grateful for. Well, I usually do that every morning anyway, but again, I don't put pressure on myself if I don't. I'm not like, oh my God, yesterday I forgot to say I'm grateful. The universe is like, no worries, Danielle. You said it like every other day. It's cool. But, finding something like, okay, today today, for example, I went to spin class, and spin class was a spiritual experience for me because it was an opportunity for me to just get on the bike, listen to the music, listen to my body, and zone out. And I felt really good, right? I felt really mindful in that. Tomorrow it could be, sitting down and meditating for an hour. But no matter what, I make an intention that every day I'm going to do something where it's just for me and allows me to be in the present moment. And so I encourage you to make it a point every day to have something. What's your one thing going to be where you can connect and identify with that? And that takes a little bit of practice, because if you're giving it kind of that loose structure, it can sometimes then be easy to forget. So find a way where every day you're checking with yourself, did I do my one thing? And I believe that will kind of help you as well. Make it less.
Danielle, oh no, I cannot agree with you more. I am the same as you. I'm like, oh, a 40-day practice. Nope. Like, you told me I should do that. Nope. No way. So maybe it's the like old Catholic guilt that I had too. I might be relating to you on that one, but, and the rebel, like, I'm not doing this, I'm resisting, but that's true. And I think another beautiful point you made is that it can be something different every day, and it can be something complete, like spin class. I'm with you. Like spin class for me, one day it's meditating, one day it's dancing, one day it's a phone call. Like whatever it is, it's a connection to your spiritual practice. And I just think that was a beautiful point that you made. And really it is. And like Danielle is saying, but a lot of our speakers are saying, is find what works for you and then do that. But like you said, hold yourself accountable to that and know that, yes, it is a practice and you do need to commit to it. But if you need structure, do the structure. And if you don't want it, have it loose, but commit to it still.
Exactly. Like I'm a big fan of, setting like your alarm on your phone to give you like a little reminder, or put affirmations that you love into your alarm. So every day you're waking up with a certain affirmation, or randomly at 2:22, all of a sudden, something comes up that says, I am love. And you're like, that's right, I am. And it just keeps you in that consistency and that momentum of what you want to accomplish.
I love that. And that's so true. And it can be a simple little reminder. And that's all you need. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's it. So, one thing that I think is really interesting that I would love to touch on with you is about manifesting. Because sometimes when people hear the word spiritual and they're not as connected to their spiritual practice, they're like, oh, yeah, manifest things out in the universe and things happen. Like, that's not going to work. Or they're like, I'm manifesting everything and it's perfect. But we know it may not always go that way. So can you explain that a little further?
Sure, yeah. So manifesting and the law of attraction, a lot of that's kind of blown up more, especially with books like The Secret, and there's Abraham Hicks, who's pretty popular in the community. So people are kind of hearing more of these concepts of what I think I will attract, right? All I have to do is really focus my energy on something and it's mine. And when I first heard the concept, I was actually in a place where I was trying to get my business running. I actually had left my corporate job. This was a little over 3 years ago. I left my corporate job. And I believed that if I believed enough, my coaching business would take off. And it did not. 3 months later, I was back in corporate again. And I was, yeah. So like literally I was like, and like people were like, do you have a plan, Danielle? Like, how is your coaching business going to go? I'm like, no, I know I'm a good coach and I'm just going to believe it in enough. I'm going to say how much I want to make and it's all going to work out. And literally it was like crickets, like nothing happened. Like, it didn't work. And I was like, what is going on? Like, why didn't it work? And so basically here's what happened. Like, first of all, you can't, while you can, and while it's not to say that, again, everyone's different, not to say that it can't work. You can't just say, I want this and it will magically appear. Who's to say that that couldn't happen? However, for me, I realized that when you're manifesting, it's a co-creation. There are two parts happening here. As equal as you want your energy to bring you what you want, you have to kind of put forth some of that too, so that there's a momentum, there's a currency of both going. It actually made me think back to a time probably about 6 years ago, I would say, when I was still very new on this path. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I was working with this one, the Career Wardrobe, that one nonprofit where they help women get back on their feet and give them the clothes so they can go into interviews and all of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was working with them at the time, and they had this this event. It was like a auction gala kind of thing. And one of the items was this Tiffany's watch. It was valued at like $5,000, and I just loved it. I thought it was fabulous. I thought it was amazing. But the raffle tickets were $100, and at the time, that was a stretch for me. That would have been, a little bit breaking the bank for me to do it. Not that it wasn't possible, but it definitely wasn't something that I just could throw around. But there was a part of me that really believed I could have this watch, that I could make it mine. This is, again, before I even knew about the law of attraction really or understood it. But I just was in this space of, I really want this watch. So I bought the raffle ticket, put my name in the thing, and then basically they announced that all the items wouldn't be announced for another week. So I was like, okay. So then basically what I did all week long, I just kept thinking about the watch. I kept thinking about how I was going to look when I wore the watch. I kept thinking about the email that was going to come through of them saying, congratulations, Danielle, you got the watch. I had images of me walking into Tiffany's to go pick up the watch and being sized for the watch. And then with that, though, as much as I kept imagining the scenario playing out and me owning this watch and wearing it, I also had the notion of, at the end of the day, though, if I don't get that watch, it's okay, because I was able to give to an amazing cause. They're going to use that money to help other women. And at the end of the day, yes, I need to cut back a little bit here and there, but I'll be fine. It's not a big deal. So while I was really feeling and honoring and honing in this notion of me owning this Tiffany's watch, I also was in a space of not being too attached, because I also said, you know what? At the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, doesn't happen, because I gave to a really great cause. I did something that will help other people. And then, of course, the week ends and I get my email that says, congratulations, Danielle, you won the Tiffany's watch. And I got to go to Tiffany's and pick it up. And I wore that thing like every day for years. I still have it. But that is a beautiful example of using the law of attraction without even realizing that I was using the law of attraction, right? And the reason why it worked was because not only was I focusing on what I wanted, I was also detaching from I have to have it. If I don't have it, I don't know what else I'm going to do. And that was my problem when I was trying to launch my coaching business 3 years ago and didn't work, because I was so desperate around it. I was so like, I want this and it has to work out. And I had a lot of anxiety around it not working out. I had a lot of fear about what would happen to me if it didn't happen. And I was forcing a lot. I was like, I need this to happen. Like, universe, you have to make this happen. I'm believing in it. And I know I'm a good coach, and I know that there's people that I can help, but there was too much force and there was too much desperate energy. And because of the force and the desperate energy I was tying to it, it was creating this wonky flow. And there wasn't even exchange for me to really get what I needed to run my business successfully. So that was one piece of it. And also, I wasn't doing enough on my part to really ask the world what I needed. I kept just thinking, well, I'll just ask the universe and the universe will bring me my clients. But I wasn't really engaging with the world as a coach. I wasn't really utilizing the technology and the tools available to really engage with people and allow them to see why I'm a good coach, right? If I'm not showing the world why I'm a good coach, then it's hard for the universe to just all of a sudden hand me clients, right? Because how is a client going to be like, I just had this feeling I'm supposed to email you and work with you as my coach? Again, not that that's not possible, but there needs to be evidence. So what is the evidence that you're creating that will help you manifest what it is that you want? So it's really important to get into a space when you're manifesting or there's something that you really want, to get really clear on what it is and to keep playing your role in it, to keep doing what you feel like you need to do to execute it properly. And also at the same time, just be really assured that you're on the right track, you're doing everything that you can, and you believe in what's best, you believe in what's possible. So that's a little bit about kind of how it works. Another thing with it all is if you don't get what you want, to try not to put so much blame on yourself. Because for example, in my coaching example where I had to go back to corporate, well, that was not what I wanted. And I was kicking and screaming and I was so upset and I was, so ashamed, right? Like I felt like I had failed, right? Here I was telling everyone I'm going to be this amazing coach living in New York City. And, next thing I know, I'm like crawling back into a corporate office job again. However, it was exactly what I needed, because going back the second time around, I took my business so much more seriously. I was like, okay, now I have this corporate job. No, do I want it? No. But this time I also picked my last corporate job. I was working like 65 hours a week. This one, I picked one where I was only going to be working 40 hours a week. They assured me like, that's it. So I gave myself 25 more hours a week that I didn't have the first time around. And I also got really serious on what my plan was going to be for my coaching. And I was going to use the money from my corporate job to invest in where I'm going. That's when I invested in Spirit Junkie Masterclass, my Kundalini Yoga certification, renting out spaces to do workshops. I couldn't have done any of those things before, right? When I was kind of just trying things out. So by me getting really clear on what I needed, using the resources around me to invest, people started showing up. Mm-hmm. I started to get reception. Gabby started kind of noticing who I was, right? And all of these different things started to come into play. And it was because there was a dance, there was a mix, there was like a co-creation special going on.
I think that is a beautiful example of, people are like, oh, everything happens for a reason. No, but it really does. Like that was the exact sequence of events that you really needed. And the first time around, you were putting such frenetic energy out there that, and hey, everyone listening, if you don't realize this or not, like the energy you put out, whether you say it or not, everyone's going to receive that. So no one wants to work with someone who's like this all the time. Please, please, please,
Yeah.
You were in such a better space where people just come to you naturally and organically, and boom, there you go. And now you're out of that corporate job, obviously,
right.
and doing, what you wanted to do in the first place. But I also love that you said, yes, it's manifesting and it's putting out there what you really truly want, but you have to do the work in it too. So it is a co-creation, and know that you're not the only player in this. I know something for me personally, and for a lot of you guys listening, is that you have to just surrender control. And I don't know if you heard Danielle sharing that in her examples, but she had to say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm going to play my part in this, but I also know that there is something higher than me. And whatever you guys have, whatever your spiritual practice is, whatever that means for you, do that. But there was something higher than her that helped her put it all together. And I think that's a really important part of what you just shared. And I hope that you all hear that, is that sometimes you got to let go and have some faith and trust and be like, it's going to be okay in the long run, right?
Absolutely, and it will be. Yeah, I mean, I was able to leave my job in 9 months after the second time of really getting clear and committed of, yes, this is how I'm going to move things forward. And it's been almost 2 years now since that time. But you have to let go of control. You can't just say, this is what I want, and then get really wrapped and tight and crazy around it. Because what also is really amazing about, and this is what I love about co-creation, you keep doing what you're doing. You stay in that space. You stay resilient to it. But in that, you also let go of the control, as you said. I'm so glad that you brought that up. We got to ease back the perfection about how it's all going to play out. Because here's the thing. When we let go of that control, when we let go of that crazy in control, it's got to be this way. I'm manifesting the man, right? And he has to be 6'2" and, all these different things, right, that we play out. And there could be an amazing guy, but he's, 5'11", and you're going to turn your back because you're like, that's not what I wanted. Yep. And, you've got to give a little wiggle room. And when you do that, when you say, like, this is what I want, this is what I desire, this is what I want to feel, right? And you focus more on the feelings. Well, why do you want a man? Do you just want a man so you can walk around with someone who's really tall and can, like, see, over big crowds for you? Is that really what you're looking for? I don't know, maybe. I mean, if you are, then great. But if you're not, you might actually realize, okay, yes, I do say that I want a tall guy, whatever, but really at the end of the day, I want to feel supported. I want to feel, loved. I want, and you start to notice what you really want to feel. And if a 5'11" man can provide all those feelings for you, you'll probably be okay with it. And so I say, put out there what it is that you want. Go for it. Do the best that you can that feels good and non-attachy or clingy to it. And in that space of not controlling, the universe can slip in some really beautiful surprises. But if you're not open to it, you're not going to see it. And so it's about staying open while staying in the momentum of what you want so that you can be pleasantly surprised. I always ask the universe to make it easy for me. Whenever there's something going on, last year I left my apartment in New York City in January. I had a place set up in Laguna for 2 months. And then after that, I had nothing. Things fell through. I basically, 2 days before the place in Laguna Beach was up, the place I thought I was going to next fell through. I literally was in a space where I am literally homeless. Like this whole gypsy thing, like the universe is taking it seriously. Like I'm literally going to be without a home and on the road. And I wound up being able to do that though for another 7 months. And the reason how I could do it was I told the universe in that moment when I realized I didn't have a place to stay, I was like, look, I'm doing your work here. I am doing my best to show up and be of service and help inspire others. In order for me to do that, I need to feel taken care of. And it needs to be easy so I can focus on serving others. And you better believe that I had the most hooked up travel in that, basically right after I came out of that meditation, I got an email from a friend of mine that I went to coaching school with. She lives in Malibu now. And she was like, Danielle, this is really last minute, but I need someone to house sit for me this weekend. And so I got to go to Malibu. After that, I was all these different crazy opportunities. I was in Marina Del Rey. I was in Hermosa Beach where I am now. I got to go to Ojai, Pasadena. I was just traveling all over. And I literally did not have to put any control into it. I just kept letting these beautiful coincidences. A coincidence is really just life coinciding with your true desires match up. And my true desire was I wanted to be taken care of and I wanted it to be easy. And so things just kept coming through on my behalf. But a lot of times it happened at the very last minute. And sometimes we have trouble waiting till the last minute for things to work out. And so what we do is we break the whole flow, right? Like you could say that you should give the universe a deadline, but then if the deadline hasn't hit yet and you're freaking out and you're trying to control it and you're muddling with everything, then you're not going to let your beautiful surprise or your beautiful thing that's supposed to work out. So there were definitely days where I didn't know where I was going the next day until literally the very last minute. But I was like, look, that was my deadline. Like I knew I was staying here till this time, and sometimes I knew in advance, but sometimes I just didn't know until the very end. But it was a really beautiful way to affirm that things always work out. A lot of times it's at the last minute because the universe doesn't really care. It's like, you gave me a deadline. You said you wanted this to happen, so I made it happen. It just happened at the very last minute. So don't sabotage the process with your impatience, because your next miracle is likely around the corner. But if you don't allow it to happen, if you block that corner, then it can't come through. So I can't stress enough how important it is to be open, to not meddle in the process, and really wait for your moment to happen and let it come through. And you'll just be so surprised and excited.
That's so true. But I have to say, like, I'll speak, or just curious with this. So it seems like obviously recently that was easier for you to do, is to wait and say, you know what, it's going to happen. It's going to work out. I may not know where I'm ending up tomorrow, but I'm good. Do you feel like a few years ago, there's no way you would have done that? And when do you think that shift happened? Because like, that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do.
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually was thinking that when I was speaking, I was like, but it also is a testament to how far along I am on my path. So right. I agree. So I think part of it is you have to get into a space when it comes to manifesting co-creation with the universe. I always recommend that you start off with a sound foundation. So for example, if we backtrack to when I wanted to build up my coaching business, I did not create a sound foundation to build my coaching business on when I first started 3 years ago, because I only had like 2 months in savings, and I hadn't really used the law of attraction very much. I hadn't really tried, and so I didn't really have the flow down, and so that's why it failed. So I suggest find yourself in an already secure position. Find yourself in a space where things are already pretty good, pretty sound. You have all your needs met. You're feeling very comfortable. You have a responsible handle on life. And then start to play with, based on this foundation that I'm in now, based on the security that I have created, here's where some more can come through. And start to play with that moreness, those things that you would like to continue to bring in. And you're doing it from a space of curiosity and openness, as opposed to a space of like, oh shit, what's going to happen, right? Because if I didn't have that, then I would have struggled with when I was on the road. And like, if I didn't have a place to stay, I'd be freaking out. I'd be like, oh my God, what am I doing? And it would blow the whole thing up. But because I had practiced enough in times of security, I could do it in times of insecurity, right? So find things now that you can start to play with. What is it that you really want? And what do you feel comfortable calling in that you wouldn't be too controlled around, or too attached to, or too stressed about, right? Like, don't sabotage you trying to learn how to manifest by saying, I'm going to quit my job in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, the universe is going to give me a new job, right? If you're not in that space yet where you can feel energetically sound about it, and you're not going to freak out, then don't do it, right? But if you're in a space where you are just so calm and cool and collected, then you can, but it does take some time. So I will say that where I am now has been a few years in the making, and it also has been me witnessing lots of miracle moments leading up to that time. So you kind of have to get some evidence around it working before you can take it next level. So the more evidence you get of, yes, this works, the higher you can take it, and you can kind of just keep escalating it and go farther and deeper as a result. And also, I think it's important don't be so hard on yourself in the process, right? Like, if something that you want doesn't manifest, don't blame yourself, or don't feel like I did it wrong, or maybe I thought the wrong things, or, don't worry about that so much. I think that's important too.
That is so important. And I don't know if you guys are noticing just even the tone of how Danielle is speaking and sharing all of this, but she uses a lot of words like play, relaxed, curious, and having that kind of attitude and approach makes it exactly what you just said. You don't feel so hard on yourself, because it's more of a playful experience. It is a dance, it's a co-creation, and then it can be a little more enjoyable, and you don't have to be so caught up in, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right, or whatever? Because honestly, like, I don't know if I'm doing my stuff right, and hey, who knows what will happen. But it's making that shift from my personal experience, being like so type A and controlling, but also having this like spirit of I'm up in the clouds floating around the world,
Yeah.
and to being like, yeah, I'm cool being that floating in the clouds kind of person, and I'm fine with someone looking at me like I'm a weirdo now. But a long time ago, that wasn't okay, and that was really hard. But
Mhm.
I just think if the words and the approach that you're saying of this curiosity and playfulness and just seeing what happens is a really important way to approach this whole path and this whole practice.
Yeah, for sure. And you bring up a good point in the sense of you don't have to come out of the spiritual closet. You don't have to. I think it's something that's very private and very personal. And even when I first was getting into it, I mean, now I call myself a spiritual teacher. So, I'm happy to talk about it and share about it. But it didn't happen overnight. In the beginning, I was focusing more on self-help and coaching, and my spirituality was more of my private practice. And the more that I saw it worked, the more I started to feel comfortable sharing it with my clients. But your spirituality may be something that you always just kind of keep in the closet with you. And if that's the case, that's fine. Sometimes it actually can muddle things when you try to preach about your spirituality or things that work for you, because as we talked about earlier in this discussion, what works for you may not work for other people. And that's, we can say it with anything, with health, diet, exercise, right? Certain things may work for you. And then if you tell somebody else to try and it doesn't work for them, then they may think the whole thing's skewed, right? So I think it's important to keep it private, keep it personal, find the things that you like. And you're going to start to find that the people that are drawn to it too will start to kind of come into your circle. I felt much more comfortable talking about my spirituality and bringing it into my coaching practice once I had a community of other like-minded individuals, right? So that's a big piece of it too.
That is a huge piece of it. I could not agree more. Danielle, I have to thank you for everything that you shared, because there are just so many nuggets that everyone can pull from this, but also what you just said, I think, is a beautiful way to kind of pull it all together, is really find what works for you, but also surround yourself with people that make you feel okay with whatever your spiritual practice is and however much you want to share or not share. But that support and that community is a huge way to make it work for you and to make it all come together. So thank you so much for all of that. And I know you are sharing a beautiful meditation with everybody who is listening, which thank you so much. And I just, little side note, everyone, you guys, she's an amazing teacher. I got to take one of her classes and she's just beautiful. So you're getting a true gift, like not just in a gift, like on multiple levels. So thank you so much, Danielle, for everything you've shared. And I'm so grateful for you. So thanks for being here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. It was an honor to be on, and I'm so impressed by you and excited about everything that you're doing and your continual, expansion and allowing yourself to evolve with it all is really magical.
Thank you, Danielle. And can I tell you that my word for this year is magic? So I love that you just said
Of
that.
course it is. Of course.
Oh gosh. All right, you guys, well, tune in for more of these interviews on theultimatehealthshift.com, and we will see you soon. Thanks again, Danielle.
You're so welcome.